The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber towered over Ambassador James Walker as he straightened his dark blue diplomatic uniform. His heart beat steadily despite the weight of representing Earth among the stars. The chamber itself was a marvel of alien architecture, with walls that seemed to shift between solid crystal and pure light, creating an atmosphere that made most junior species feel small and insignificant. Walker refused to feel small. The chamber held representatives from over 200 spacefaring civilizations, yet humans were among the newest additions. Most of the other species had been traveling between stars when Earth's people were still figuring out how to make fire. The air felt thick with tension as Walker took his assigned seat, one of the smallest chairs in the outermost ring reserved for junior members. The Council recognizes the start of the 47,892nd General Assembly, announced the Council Speaker, a 12-foot-tall crystalline being whose voice resonated through the chamber like musical glass. The speaker's body pulsed with internal light as it spoke, a display that had amazed Walker when he first arrived 6 months ago. Now he recognized it as just another way the elder species showed off their advancement. Thomas Reed, Walker's aide, leaned close to his ear. "Sir, something's wrong. Look at the missed collective representatives." Reed's whispered words carried genuine concern. Walker glanced toward the upper tiers where the gaseous beings swirled in their containment fields. Their usually calm, cloud-like forms showed signs of agitation, swirling in irregular patterns. Among the oldest council members, the Mist Collective rarely displayed such obvious distress. The first sign of real trouble came during the routine status reports. A junior member from the Outer Rim colonies, a reptilian being named Greenscale, rose to speak. "Our long-range sensors have detected unusual energy signatures approaching from the galactic core," Greenscale announced, his scales shifting from green to a worry pale yellow. The patterns match no known species or natural phenomenon. Walker expected immediate questions or calls for investigation. Instead, the chamber fell into an unnatural silence. The elder species representatives exchanged looks that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. He had learned to read alien body language over the past months, and everything he saw now screamed of hidden knowledge and fear. The council speaker's crystalline form dimmed slightly. "The council acknowledges this report. We will establish a committee to study these readings over the next standard year." A year. Walker found himself standing before he realized it. The movement drew every eye in the chamber to him. "Speaker, with respect, unknown forces approaching populated systems warrant immediate attention, not a long-term study." The speaker's lights pulsed in what Walker had learned was irritation. The human ambassador forgets his place. Junior members must be recognized before speaking. Walker felt his face flush, but he held his ground. "I apologize for the breach of protocol, but my concern stands. Earth's history shows that ignoring potential threats." The human ambassador will be silent. The speaker cut him off, crystal tones sharp and cold. "This assembly will proceed according to proper order." As Walker sat down, Reed passed him a data tablet. On it, a message from Earth's military command flashed urgently. "Multiple deep space monitoring stations confirm anomalous readings. Analysis suggests controlled movements. Request diplomatic pressure for immediate council action." Walker looked around the chamber again, seeing the proceedings in a new light. The elder species weren't just being bureaucratic. They were deliberately slowing things down. But why? The answer had to lie somewhere in the Council's vast archives of history and policy. As the assembly droned on with meaningless procedures, Walker made a decision. He typed a quick message to Reed. "Get me everything you can find about similar situations in Council history. Something about this feels wrong, and I want to know why." Reed nodded slightly and got to work. Neither of them realized yet that they were about to uncover secrets that would shake the foundations of galactic society and force humanity to make a stand that would echo across the stars. 3 days after the council meeting, Thomas Reed stood in Ambassador Walker's private office aboard Station Alpha 1, his face pale under the soft light. The screens around them displayed ancient council records that had taken him days to decrypt. "Sir, you need to see this," Reed said, his hand shaking slightly as he transferred the files to the main display. "I had to piece it together from fragments of sealed records, but it's happened before." Walker leaned forward in his chair, studying the holographic images that filled the air before him. The text was written in the oldest form of council standard, but the translation matrix made the meaning clear enough. His eyes widened as he read. 50,000 years ago, Reed explained, pointing to a particular section. A force came from the galactic core. The same energy signatures, the same pattern of approach. And the council. He swallowed hard. They knew exactly what to do because they'd seen it before that too. The ambassador's fists clenched as he read further. The record showed a clear pattern. When the unknown force approached, the council would deliberately sacrifice the younger civilizations, offering them up as buffers to protect the elder species' core worlds. "Look at these casualty figures," Walker said, his voice tight with anger. "Entire species, gone. Written off as acceptable losses in official records." He stood up and paced the room, his reflection moving across the station's viewport that showed the glittering expanse of space beyond. Reed nodded grimly. "It gets worse. I found evidence of at least 3 separate cycles. Each time, the council follows the same playbook. They delay, they form committees, they spread misinformation, all while secretly preparing their own defenses and deciding which younger species will be sacrificed." Walker stopped at the viewport, staring out at the stars. "That's why they dismissed the Outer Rim reports so quickly. They're already deciding who to sacrifice this time." He turned back to Reed. "Who else knows about this?" "No one yet. I used private channels and personal decryption codes to access these records. The Council's security isn't as good as they think. They never expected a human to look this deep into their history." The ambassador activated his secure communication link to Earth. "Get me Admiral Stone. Priority 1. Minutes later, Admiral Mary Stone's hologram appeared in the office. Her uniform was crisp despite the late hour on Earth. "Ambassador, your message said it was urgent." Walker gestured, and Reed shared the discovered files. They watched as the Admiral's expression darkened while reading. "Confirmation of what our deep space sensors have been telling us," she said finally. "But this historical context, this changes everything." "We need to prepare," Walker said, quietly. "If the Council realizes we know." "Already on it," Stone replied. "I've been running simulations since your first warning about the Council's behavior. You won't believe this, but our war games show something interesting. Human unpredictability seems to be our greatest asset. These invaders, whatever they are, they've only ever faced carefully managed resistance from the Council. They've never encountered anything like us." Reed looked up from his data tablet. "Sir, I found something else. The Council's own assessments of humanity. They're afraid of us. Not of our technology or our military strength, but of our adaptability. Our tendency to find solutions they'd never consider." Walker stood straighter, a plan forming in his mind. "Then we use that fear. The Council thinks they can sacrifice us like they've sacrificed others before, but humanity doesn't play by their rules." He looked at both Reed and Stone's hologram. "Get me everything you can. Military readiness reports, industrial capacity assessments, potential allies among the other junior species. We're not going to be their sacrificial lambs." The stars outside seemed to shine brighter as the 3 humans began their work, unaware that their actions would soon shatter 50,000 years of Council tradition and change the fate of the galaxy forever. Admiral Stone stood before the massive holographic display in Earth's secret underground command center, studying the simulation results with intense focus. Around her, dozens of officers and analysts worked at their stations, running scenario after scenario of possible invasion patterns. "Run it again," she ordered, watching as the AI simulated another battle between human forces and the theoretical enemy fleet. This time, Throw in our new randomization protocols. The results made her smile for the first time in days. The holographic ships danced in patterns that no traditional military doctrine would suggest, confusing the enemy eye that was based on historical council records. The simulation ended with a clear human victory. "Send these results to Ambassador Walker immediately," she commanded, then turned to face the gathered military leadership. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've found our edge. Every species the Council has sacrificed in the past fought according to predictable patterns. We don't." The communication screen lit up, showing Walker's face from his office on Station Alpha 1. "Admiral, I got your data. This confirms what we've suspected about human adaptability. But we need more than just tactical advantages." Stone nodded. "Agreed. That's why we've been analyzing the Council's defensive preparations from previous cycles. They always follow the same strategy, like a chess player who only knows one opening move." Walker leaned forward in his chair. "And we're going to play a completely different game. How soon can we have our fleet ready?" 6 months at current pace," Stone replied. "We've been converting civilian ships and upgrading our weapons systems since the first warning signs. The Council's representatives haven't noticed because they don't understand human manufacturing capabilities. We look primitive to them." The ambassador smiled grimly. "Good. Keep it that way. Reed has discovered something else in the Council archives. These invaders, they've never faced a species that could adapt as quickly as we can. Their whole strategy relies on predictability." On a secondary screen, Reed's face appeared. "The Council's own studies show that humans make choices that their predictive models can't anticipate. We're too random for them. They see it as a weakness, but it's actually our greatest strength." Stone pulled up another simulation. "Look at this. Standard Council doctrine calls for organized, predictable fleet movements. But here's what happens when we introduce human chaos theory into our tactics. The holographic ships moved in seemingly erratic patterns that nonetheless formed a deadly effective battle strategy. The Council won't expect this," Walker said, studying the display. "They'd spent 50,000 years fighting the same way, sacrificing younger species in carefully planned retreats. They've never faced an enemy that refuses to follow their rules." An alert flashed on Stone's screen. More data from the deep space sensors. "The unknown fleet is accelerating," she reported. "We have less time than we thought. Maybe 4 months before they reach the outer colonies." Walker's expression hardened. "Then we move faster. Admiral, I need you to prepare something that will shock the Council. When I make my move, I want Earth's fleet to be ready for an immediate show of force." "Already on it," Stone replied. "I'm calling it Operation Thunderbolt. When you give the signal, we'll demonstrate just how unpredictable humans can be." Reed spoke up from his screen. "Sir, I've also identified potential allies among the other junior species. Many of them have noticed the Council's suspicious behavior. They're scared, but they're also angry. If we show them proof of the Council's past betrayals, then we give them a choice," Walker finished. "Join us in fighting back, or accept the Council's plans to sacrifice them. Humanity won't stand alone. We'll lead a coalition of the young against both the invaders and the Council's corruption." Stone looked at the battle simulations one last time. "The old powers think our unpredictability makes us weak. We're about to show them that chaos can be the strongest force in the universe, especially when it's guided by human determination." As the screens went dark, Stone turned back to her commanders. "You heard the ambassador. Let's show the galaxy why you should never underestimate humanity's capacity for innovation, especially when our backs are against the wall." The emergency alarms echoed through the Council chamber as reports flooded in from the outer rim. On the main display, red dots marked the locations of colonies going dark one by one. Ambassador Walker watched the Council members react, noting how the elder species showed no real surprise at the devastating news. "The colony of New Haven has gone silent," announced the Council speaker, its crystalline form dimming slightly. We have also lost contact with Mining Station Beta 7 and the agricultural world of green fields. Walker's hands gripped his chair's armrests as he watched the Mist Collective representatives float higher in their containment fields, a sign of them preparing to speak. Their whispered words filled the chamber like a cold breeze. The Council proposes an immediate strategic withdrawal from all Outer Rim territories. The Mist Elder said, "All species must contribute to this necessary sacrifice for the greater good." Reed, sitting beside Walker, passed him a data tablet. "Sir, look at these evacuation plans they're proposing. Every single world they're abandoning belongs to the younger species. Their own colonies are being quietly reinforced." Walker nodded slightly, keeping his face neutral despite his rising anger. The Council was following their ancient playbook perfectly. Sacrifice the young to save the old. But this time, they faced something they hadn't counted on: human observation and preparation. His secure communicator vibrated. Admiral Stone's message was brief but crucial. First contact with enemy forces confirmed. Their ships match no known design. But we found something. They operate with a hive mind structure. Each ship is connected to all others. It's their strength, but it could also be their weakness. Walker looked up as Greenscale, the reptilian representative who had first reported the strange energy signatures, rose to speak. "My people's outer colonies are under direct attack. We request immediate military aid from the Council fleet." The Council speaker's response came too quickly, too smoothly, clearly prepared in advance. "The Council regrets that our defensive forces must be preserved for the protection of core worlds. We recommend immediate evacuation of all outer territories." Walker watched Greenscale's scales fade to a pale gray of despair. The younger species were beginning to understand their fate, but humanity had been preparing for this moment. Reed leaned close to Walker's ear. "Latest intelligence from our deep space probes, sir. The enemy fleet's hive mind has a distinct communication pattern. Our AI systems have identified potential disruption points." Walker sent a quick response to Admiral Stone. "How soon can we demonstrate our defensive capabilities?" Her reply came moments later. "Operation Thunderbolt is ready. Fleet is in position, cloaked with our new stealth technology. The Council doesn't know we've developed this capability. On your signal, we can show them exactly what humanity can do." The Council chamber erupted in chaos as more reports of attacks arrived. The speaker called for order, its crystalline form pulsing with authoritative light. "The Council will now vote on Resolution 47B, establishing strategic sacrifice zones to protect critical core worlds." Walker stood up slowly, his movement drawing attention in the panicked chamber. He caught Greenscale's eye, giving a subtle nod that the reptilian representative returned. Similar nods came from other young species representatives. They had seen his message and were ready to support humanity's stand. "Before this vote," Walker said, his voice cutting through the chaos, "Earth's delegation has evidence to present to the full Council. Evidence that will explain exactly why these attacks feel so familiar to our elder members." The speaker's lights flickered in alarm. "The human ambassador is out of order." This emergency, Walker interrupted, his voice growing stronger, "is exactly what the Council has been waiting for. Another chance to sacrifice the young to save themselves. But humanity has a different plan." He activated his data tablet, preparing to reveal the Council's dark history to all present. The time for secrets was over. The time for humanity to lead had come. The Council chamber fell silent as the ancient records appeared on the massive central display. Ambassador Walker stood firm, his voice steady as he began to speak. 50,000 years ago, this same threat appeared. The Council faced the same choice they face today. He gestured to the historical data scrolling across the screens. They chose to sacrifice the younger species to save themselves. But that's not the worst part. The speaker's crystalline form flashed with dangerous intensity. "This is classified information. Guards, shut down those displays." "You can shut them down," Walker continued, raising his voice. But every species representative here has already received copies of these records. The truth is out. He turned to face the gathered ambassadors. The Council has done this not once, not twice, but 3 times before. Each time, they deliberately sacrifice younger civilizations while protecting their own worlds. Outraged cries filled the chamber. The representatives of younger species rose from their seats, their voices joining in a chorus of anger and disbelief. The Mist Collective swirled violently in their containment fields, their usual calm completely shattered. Order. The speaker's voice rang out. This is a violation of Council security protocols. The human ambassador will be removed. I'm not finished, Walker said, pressing a button on his communicator. New images appeared on the displays, live feeds from the Outer Rim. But instead of showing destroyed colonies, they showed Earth's hidden fleet moving into defensive positions. Sleek warships, more advanced than anything the Council thought humanity possessed, took up strategic positions around threatened worlds. Humanity refuses to be your sacrifice, Walker declared. We've spent the last 6 months preparing for this moment, building ships, developing weapons, but most importantly, studying our enemy's weakness, the same weakness you've known about but never exploited because it didn't fit with your traditional tactics. Reed stood beside him, adding additional data to the displays. The invaders use a hive mind system. It's complex, but it can be disrupted. The Council has known this for 50,000 years, but never adapted their strategy to exploit it. They just kept sacrificing worlds instead of fighting back. The chamber erupted again, but this time with questions and demands for explanation. Walker raised his hand for silence. Admiral Stone, he said into his communicator, show them. On the displays, Earth's fleet suddenly engaged their engines in perfect synchronization. The ships moved in patterns that seemed chaotic at first glance, but followed a carefully planned strategy. As they approached the nearest invader fleet, their apparent chaos became their strength. Look at these tactical displays, Walker said. The enemy can't predict our movements because we don't fight like you've taught everyone to fight. We don't follow your rules of engagement. We adapt. We improvise. We overcome. The chamber watched in stunned silence as the human fleet's unconventional tactics confused and scattered a portion of the invading force. For the first time in recorded history, the enemy's hive mind showed signs of disruption. This is just one fleet, defending one sector, Walker announced. Earth has more. And we're willing to share our technology, our tactics, and our knowledge with any species willing to stand with us. He looked directly at the Council speaker. The time of sacrificing the young to save the old is over. The speaker's crystalline form dimmed to almost darkness. You cannot possibly hope to. Prepare for war. Walker's voice thundered through the chamber. Not your kind of war, where you hide behind sacrificed worlds. Real war, where we fight back, where we stand together, where we win or lose as equals. Greenscale stood first, followed by other representatives of younger species. One by one, they moved to stand near Walker, forming a circle of defiance against the Council's ancient pattern of betrayal. The galaxy is changing, Walker declared. You can either change with it, or you can watch as we save ourselves, and prove that the youngest among us may also be the strongest. The emergency conference room aboard Station Alpha 1 buzzed with energy as representatives from 27 young species gathered around the holographic display. Ambassador Walker stood at the head of the table, watching as Admiral Stone's projection showed the latest battle data. The enemy's hive mind has a critical weakness, Stone explained, highlighting sections of the tactical display. When faced with unexpected patterns, it takes 3.7 seconds to adapt. That's our window of opportunity. Greenscale, now serving as the spokesman for the Outer Rim worlds, leaned forward. Our ships are fast, but they lack heavy weapons. How can we help? Walker smiled. That's exactly why we called this meeting. Each of our species has different strengths. Apart, we're vulnerable. Together, he pressed a button. bringing up designs for combined fleet tactics. Together, we can create something the enemy has never seen before. The representative from the aquatic worlds, Ambassador Blue Deep, spoke next. Our underwater factories can be converted to produce your new weapons designs within weeks. The Council never knew about our true industrial capacity. Neither did they know about our hidden shipyards in the gas giants, added Ambassador Ridge, his insectoid mandibles clicking with excitement. We've been building in secret since the first warnings came. Walker nodded, then displayed a new set of tactical projections. Humanity's chaotic combat patterns, combined with Greenscale's speed, Blue Deep's stealth technology, and Ridge's swarm tactics, the enemy's hive mind won't be able to process so many different attack styles at once. Reed entered the room, his tablet displaying urgent updates. Sir, the Council is in chaos. 3 more elder species have broken ranks, offering to join our alliance. They're impressed by our success against the first invasion wave. Let them wait, Walker replied firmly. They had their chance. This is the Alliance of New Stars, and it will be led by those who choose to fight, not those who try to sacrifice us. The holographic display shifted to show the current status of their combined forces. Supply lines from a dozen worlds converged, showing the true strength of the younger species working together. What the Council had dismissed as primitive worlds were rapidly becoming a coordinated war machine. Our first combined fleet will be ready in 3 days, Admiral Stone announced. We've already begun sharing our disruption technology with all Alliance members. Every ship is being equipped with the new chaos pattern generators. Ambassador Ridge raised a clawed appendage. The Council still controls the main defense networks. How can we protect our worlds without their support? Walker pressed another button, revealing a new set of defense plans. We don't need their networks. Earth has developed a new system based on randomized quantum communications. The enemy can't track what it can't predict, and it can't predict what follows no pattern. The room erupted in excited discussions as representatives saw how their various technologies could work together. Species that had barely spoken to each other under Council rule were now sharing secrets and strategies freely. This is more than just a military alliance, Walker continued, his voice carrying over the buzz of conversation. This is a declaration that the younger species will chart their own course in the galaxy, no more accepting the Council's judgment about who is worthy of survival. Blue Deep's fins rippled in agreement. They called our unpredictability a weakness. But together, our chaos becomes a pattern all its own, one that will break the enemy's hive mind. An alert flashed across the main display. Reed checked his tablet and looked up with grim determination. Sir, long-range sensors show the main invasion fleet has increased speed. They'll reach our first defense line in 72 hours. Walker looked around the room at his fellow representatives. Where there had once been fear, he now saw resolve. Where there had been resignation to fate, he saw determination to fight. 3 days to prove the Council wrong, he said. 3 days to show the galaxy that the youngest among us can be the strongest. Let's make them count. The massive command center aboard the Alliance flagship, New Dawn, hummed with activity as officers from 24 species worked at their stations. Ambassador Walker stood beside Admiral Stone, watching as the enemy fleet approached on the main tactical display. They're moving exactly as the historical records showed, Stone said, pointing to the formation of the hive mind ships. Same pattern they've used for 50,000 years. They'd never needed to change because the Council always gave them what they wanted. Walker nodded grimly. But not this time. He opened a channel to the combined Alliance fleet. All ships, this is Ambassador Walker. The enemy expects us to retreat, to scatter, to fall back like every civilization they've ever faced. Let's show them something new. The Alliance fleet hung in space, an impressive sight of mixed vessels. Earth's heavy warships formed the core, surrounded by Greenscale's swift interceptors, Blue Deep's stealth cruisers, and Ridge's swarm fighters. Each ship was equipped with the chaos pattern generators that would disrupt the enemy's hive mind. Enemy fleet entering range, called out a sensor operator. Their numbers are massive. The invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace, a vast swarm of biomechanical ships that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Their formations were perfect, mathematical, unchanging, just as they had been for 50,000 years. All ships, Admiral Stone commanded, execute Operation Thunderbolt. The Alliance fleet burst into action. Earth's warships charged straight ahead, their movements deliberately erratic. Green Scale's interceptors darted between the larger ships in seemingly random patterns. Blue Deep's vessels phased in and out of normal space, while Ridge's swarm fighters executed maneuvers that looked like pure chaos. The enemy fleet faltered. For the first time in their ancient history, they faced an opponent whose movements they couldn't predict. "It's working," Reed called from his station. "Their hive mind is showing signs of stress. The chaos pattern generators are creating gaps in their network." Walker watched as the enemy's perfect formations began to break down. Some ships moved too slowly, others too quickly, their legendary coordination shattered by the unpredictable assault. "Second wave, engage," Stone ordered. More Alliance ships dropped out of hyperspace behind the enemy fleet. The trap was sprung, chaos on all sides. The command center rocked as enemy weapons found their mark. "Shields at 60%, someone reported, but their accuracy is down by half. They can't target what they can't predict." Walker grabbed the command rail as another hit shook the ship. "All units, press the attack. Don't give their hive mind time to adapt." The space around them lit up with weapons fire. Alliance ships darted through the enemy formation, each species fighting in their own unique way, creating a symphony of chaos that the hive mind couldn't process. "Sir," Reed's voice cut through the noise, "we're detecting a power surge in the enemy flagship. Their hive mind, it's overloading." The massive enemy command ship suddenly erupted in a cascade of energy discharges. The effect rippled through their fleet like dominoes falling. Ship after ship lost coordination, their movements becoming clumsy and uncoordinated. "This is our chance," Stone declared. "All ships, concentrate fire on their command nodes." The Alliance fleet struck as one, but not in the organized, predictable way the Council would have fought. Each ship, each squadron attacked in their own way, creating a storm of destruction that the enemy couldn't counter. Hours later, Walker stood before the Council chamber again. Behind him, the tactical display showed the remains of the enemy fleet drifting in space. The Council members sat in stunned silence. "For 50,000 years, Walker said, his voice carrying across the chamber, "you sacrificed the young to save yourselves. Today, the young saved everyone." He looked at the other Alliance representatives, standing proudly beside him. "The galaxy is changing. The Alliance of New Stars will help lead that change. The age of sacrifice is over." He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and one more thing." He smiled at the Council speaker's dimmed crystalline form. "Humanity sends its regards."